Good morning, everyone. How's it going? Looks like there's about a 40-second delay or so on my stream here, but let's see. It's only about 10 seconds. Okay. Not bad. Yeah, good morning. Based on Hey, Dr. Purple, how's it going? Enrico, Chris, Benton, Charlie. Good morning, everybody. All right, so I took my let's see. Yeah, it's good to be streaming again. I missed it. I definitely missed it. I like streaming. Morning, Rich. Good morning, Steve. Yeah, so I took my competition P&L off my overlay there because, like I said, I'm not going to win it, but I'll still show the, I guess, the leaderboard and all that stuff throughout the rest of the week. But yeah, like I said, that thing, there's some people up over 150 grand in 3 days. And I'm like, yeah, I don't trade that way. They're trading like literally, I'll watch it, and these like top 10 people are trading literally all day. They're like riding the market all day, hop out, go the other way. I'm like, yeah, I'm not doing that. I need to be in the long game for any competitions. Let's see here. Yeah, so market-wise. All right, let me hop over to my 15-minute chart. This is kind of what I'm looking at here. We had some consolidation, accumulation, whatever, overnight here. We're expanding today. Now, we do have a bit of this sell-side liquidity here where we have these relatively equal lows that I'm looking at. We are taking that sell-side liquidity. We do have some buy-side liquidity up here. Then we have, of course, the London high, London low. Now, we did reach up into this daily fair value gap. Okay, so let me head over to my daily chart real quick. We have this fair value gap here that we created on the daily chart. Now, we didn't take any swing lows or anything with it, but we did reach down into last week's low, and then pulled back up into this daily fair value gap right towards the middle of it there. Consequent encroachment. Hit the middle of it, and we're going down. So overall, you know, over multiple days, we could see this continue down and take these lows, head into this volume imbalance, and then eventually take this sell side liquidity here. But that can be, of course, over many days. So for the 15-minute chart, this is where I get most of my bias for my trading day. I want to see how we're doing here underneath this sell side liquidity. Are we going to continue to reach down? And if we do, what do we reach for? Well, the next area we have is this low and this imbalance right here, this 15-minute fair value gap. We may reach into that. And then we do have these smooth highs up here. So I want to see if we reach into this, do we get a market structure shift and head back up to there and take these highs? Or do we continue running down? Because we might, right? We might, because we already reached into the middle of this daily fair value gap up here. So there's really not much of a reason to go back up there unless if it's just going to reach up, take these highs, and then drop. But right here is a crucial area to read, because I want to see, does it continue to draw lower? I didn't really mark anything else out lower than this because this is a crucial area for me. If we do reach down lower, it'll probably either be this little swing low right here, which it's not great of a swing low, but it's just like kind of like a reach down. And then we have a 1 hour. That's what this pink gap is here, or this pink marking. Let me expand it a little more so we can see 1 hour. This is a 1 hour fair value gap. And then here we have a 15-minute fair value gap. And it's kind of down into yesterday, these highs that we took yesterday. So if it keeps reaching down, it may reach down into there. So what I'm looking for is if we can't take this, or if we can take this, do we create some kind of imbalances coming down and then it'll reach back up and continue down? Or are we going to come up and take these highs? So let me head to my 1 minute chart and mark out my opening range gap because I'm pretty sure we have one. Yep, we have a gap down. So here's going to be the high. I always look at these opening range gaps. We opened here. And opening range gap low. I have these all marked out. I need to mark the middle of it now. 770.50. All right, so now we have this opening range gap right here, right? And we're reaching into that 15-minute fair value gap. Now, we open and we just immediately dropped, right? So we need to see, I need to see, are we going to continue that drop, or are we just looking to sweep this liquidity here from the 15-minute chart, which we've reached down further and into that 15-minute fair value gap. So it's going to be a waiting game right now. Let's see. We have 9:30. We don't have a fair value gap after the open at all. We have a little bit of a volume imbalance right here. Very little. It's not like that big, but let's see. Right there. So it may reach back up into that. And when price opens like this and it just starts running, like I'm not, that's when I want to sit on my hands. Because you got to remember, keep in mind, so we have this little volume imbalance. There's no fair value gaps yet. We might get one here if price stays down there, but go back to the 15-minute chart. See how we're reaching down? This right here, we still have 6.5 minutes. So this could be just a wick down. Like, we have to see where price closes here. It's going to be crucial, you know, and that's typically why I don't take a trade before 9:45. Because the 15-minute bar closed at 9:45, right? So I want to see, does it close above or below the midpoint of this fair value gap right here? If it closed below it, then this will be an inversion. And it'll have this 9:15 fair value gap. We have this one. So, I mean, it is expanding down, so just want to see where, at this point, where is it drawing to? Where does it stop? So it's continuing to reach. Now, I do want to measure this wick right here, because this is a reaching. This wick is reaching for something, right? Like, this wasn't, I wouldn't call it a pullback. This was just a I call them manipulation wicks, where they're coming down. And this is the 15-minute chart. So, like, price reached, and closed up here where the body closed. So ICT says, you know, the wicks do the damage and the bodies tell the story. So the wick pulled down, pulled up, and closed. So with this wick reaching, I want to read the middle of it, which is the purple line. And price is going to head, I want to see what price does right when it reaches down into, that's 659.25. I want to see what price does there. If it rejects, we'll see. We'll see what it does. But if it does continue to coming down, this is an area that if it holds up, you know, might be looking for a long in that area. Okay, so it's hitting that midpoint of the wick, mean threshold. That's what it's called. Go to my 1 minute chart here. Yeah, there's a 4-hour gap there as well. I didn't mark it because I had these down here, and with a 4-hour, you know, like like it's like the word says, 4 hour. It takes 4 hours to close. Like this bar won't close until 10 a.m. So I figured it could reach down, and I just didn't want to have a big shaded area because I have my 4 hour. See, like if I mark it here, and then I'll just have this huge shaded area. So that's kind of, I mentally noted that one, but I figured it could reach down into it. And then if it's going to reach, it'll probably reach for that 1 hour or 15 minute. But you can always look and see what's the consequent encroachment of that 4 hour gap, the middle of it. And if I zoom in, it's going to be, here, let me get rid of this. Right here at about that 666 area. It's not a good number. But so yeah, it's reaching in, and then of course by 10 a.m. we'll see where it closes. But yeah, it displaced up and through these highs on the 4 hour chart here. So we could have a shift to the long side. We just kind of have to wait. See where it's reaching down to. This will be a order block here as well on the 4 hour that it's reaching into. So, yeah. But on the daily chart, like I said, I don't really have much of a reason for it to come back up because that daily fair value gap here. So, since it rejected off of it. Come back to the 15 minute. Reaching down. Let me get rid of this 4 hour gap. Reaching right into this 1 hour one. And usually, like, if I have a higher time frame, like I marked it for the purposes of showing here, but like if I have overlapping ones like this, I'll just mark the higher time frame one. As long as it's not too large, because, you know, like that 4 hour, it's very large. It could reach into it, right? So, like, then I might not mark it. But this 1 hour one is not much bigger than this 15-minute one. I could really just, like, just have the 1 hour one. And the middle, look at the middle of both of them, the consequent encroachment. They're literally, like, just about exactly the same. So, price could reach down to here, could reach down to here. I mean, we'll see. I mean, at right now, it's tapping exactly the top. I mean, the top of the 1 hour. So, we'll see. What time is it? It is 9:43. Just waiting at this moment. Spilt my wife's coffee on my leg a little bit earlier, so all I'm smelling is coffee right now. And I might catch some flack for this, but I do not like coffee. So, it was just a spill, but it's driving me crazy because that's all I'm smelling. Dang, I'm going to lose all my subscribers. Everybody that's in the chat. Y'all are, I'm sorry. I love coffee. Hey, Sharif, what's up? How's it going? So, a lot of y'all, I'm sure, might not know this, but I'm half Brazilian. And in Brazil, it's very common to drink a drink called Guaraná. And there's a soda of it, and I love the soda, but I'm not talking about the soda. There's like a powder extract. It's almost like drinking coffee, except it has like 10 times the amount of caffeine as coffee. Good morning. Ravindra. I don't know if I'm saying that right. All right, yeah. Let's see. We have 9:30. Yep, first presented fair value gap right here on our 1 minute chart. I marked that. This is kind of going to give me an idea of where and what price is doing. Oh yeah, South Florida does have a lot of Brazilians for sure. And you know what's funny though? Higher up. Oh, you're talking about this little bitty one? Yeah. I'll mark it just to watch it. I don't like how small that one is, though. I can barely even grab it. I'll keep an eye on it, but I don't really like that one. I'm not seeing one, Chris. We have 9:30 here. Are you missing this wick that wicked all the way up? There's a wick right here. There's no other gap. Oh, I see right here. Okay. Yeah. I missed that one. This little one. I was talking too much. Yeah, and it's overlapping our 15-minute one right there. My fault. So this one, what I want to look at, yeah, maybe I should pay attention a little bit more. I get caught up. See, that's the one downfall of streaming is I get caught up talking sometimes. But, hey, I haven't streamed in a little while. I'm a little rusty. All right, so I do like that it drew down into this rejecting right at this 1 hour gap. I want to see, so my first sign of a market structure shift or reversal is when it immediately inverts a fair value gap. Like right here, we have this little fair value gap that formed and it immediately inverted it. So this is an inversion right here. Okay. So I want to see now, can price hold above this one, above this inversion? It hit this one. So I'm not yet ready to go long, but, and then this one, this 15-minute one got inverted as well. So here's a crucial area, right? And we have this volume imbalance that it could potentially still reach up for. But, and then I have my buy side liquidity all the way up there. Let me make sure I'm not, hold on one second. Let me go to my 15-minute chart. And I got to mark out. See, this was a 9:30 open. I'm not too worried about this bar, so it could continue to reach up. I do want to mark out this 15-minute fair value gap as well, because if we start going up, I mean, I don't target. This is too large of a target for me to go to this buy side liquidity, but this is a pool. This is where price could pull up to. So if it does go up, it'll come up. It could come up to these fair value gaps here, and then it'll cause some turbulence, right? It's not going to just go straight up and straight through. That's not going to happen. It'll come up, kind of bounce around, do some things. So that's why I don't. Also, why now if I was holding all day, then you can target up there, but I don't do that. I go for the low hanging fruit. So the first sign would be this inversion, and you see how it's coming back through the inversion. I don't like that if I'm looking to go long. And I'm not going to go short right now because we have, like, why would I go short when we're hitting this 15-minute and 1 hour gap? Like, there's no reason, like, I'm not going to short into that. Zero reason for me to do that. So, currently, I'm not looking for a short. Now, this inversion did not hold, but it doesn't mean we're not going to go long. It's just not yet. Okay? So we bounced off of this 1 minute gap. I need to see this get inverted. So the good thing is this little fair value gap, that was our first sign that we could potentially reverse. Okay, but it didn't hold on the inversion. It rejected here, so it may reach down a little bit more. It might not. So basically I'm waiting. We have a nice little swing right here. This little swing that it created in this 1 minute. So if we start to show displacement up through this swing, then we get a fair value gap to the long side, which is called a busy, B-I-S-I, and then invert this one, then I would be more interested. I do want to see this area right here because we have this 15-minute inversion where our first presented fair value gap is. It could reject here and continue down as well. So that's going to be a crucial area that I'm going to be watching. Do I consider the overlap stronger? Yes. So this is what I've don't take some of this stuff to the bank because a lot of things, like I studied ICT, right? And everything that he's taught on his YouTube channels. But then, as traders, we have to analyze what we're seeing and learning, like kind of reading between the lines, right? And what I've noticed a lot is when things line up too perfectly, ICT says there's an algorithm, right? And all that. whether that's all true or not, I mean, I do believe that there is an algorithm because things just do line up too perfectly sometimes. But when things are lining up perfectly, to me, that's like no accident or no coincidence. Like that's meaningful. So when things start overlapping, or if I mark something out and it lines up perfectly with another thing, to me, that's just like, okay, that's a dead giveaway. This is probably what's going to happen. So I definitely look at when things are overlapping, when, you know, I mark out a fair value gap and then it lines up with something else on another time frame, or, you know, a different PD array that he has, like an order block lining up perfectly, the middle of the order block with the middle of a 1 minute gap, or whatever. You know, I think you understand what I'm saying. But when things line up too perfectly, I'm like, all right, that's too perfect. So yeah, the overlapping, I definitely take note of. So here we pull down, which this is good, hit this 1 minute fair value gap, and reach down a little further, made a lower low. Let me glance at ES real quick, see what it's doing. ES is in the same, it's correlated, and it reached a little lower too, so there's no what's called SMT, which is a divergence, but that's fine. I don't really look for that too much or like use that as confirmations. This is YM. But when we have it, yeah, it's definitely good. ES is reaching up. So I reached down, made a lower low. That's good. So now if we take this high and displace, that's going to be a great sign that we could be shifting to the long side. And then it could actually form a bit of a breaker pattern where it goes up, makes a lower low, makes a higher high, and then, you know, it could reach down and go. So we'll see. 9:52. It's the time that I start looking for my entry, and it can come all the way into, you know, 10:20. For those of you that weren't here on any of the other live streams a couple days ago, if I don't see something I'm interested in by around 10:30 or so, to 10:30 to 10:40, then I'm done for the day, because I use the 9:30 to about 9:45, 9:50 to frame out what I'm looking for. And then if I don't get it, or if I'm watching and reading the market and it doesn't look like I'm going to get it by around that 10:30, 10:40 mark, I'm done. And that's helped me so much with my discipline. Like, I'm sure most of y'all can agree. A lot of us are not where we want to be payout wise because of ourselves. So I have to put rules on myself. That's why I take one trade a day. I don't trade more than 1 hour a day, all those things, because anything outside of that, I just get stupid with myself and then I regret it. So, oops. Yeah, right now it's a waiting game. This is such a small imbalance, and it kind of did reach up into it here a little bit. It almost tapped it, but I'm just going to leave it there for a visual. And you see how it's accumulating again right in this area? So, I would not be surprised if it reached down a little further. Now, if price does come down a little bit, this is a wick I want to read right here. Because see how this reached? It reached down. So if we come back down and we cannot wick, even just a wick below this midline right here, then, you know, I'll be waiting for it to displace to the long side. But like I said, I'm not surprised if it reaches down a little further. But you see how perfect it tapped this 1 hour fair value gap right here? I mean, it wicked down, closed. Opened here, wicked down, went up. So, yeah, it may not reach further. So, we'll see. Just wait. But then I am going to watch this huge fair value gap. Yeah, I have those new day opening gaps on another chart that I watch. So actually, let me see. There's some days though this week that the gap was like a tick or a couple ticks between each other, so I didn't mark them. But let me see if I have them here. Yep, there it is. See, these are my new day opening gap right here, right through it. The fresh ones from today. So this is my chart where I keep all of them. And then I have my new week opening gaps as well, which they're all the way down here, a whole bunch of them. So, hey, we could reach down. I use these as confirmations, though, mainly on my trades. Just because these are down here, I'm not looking at it as it has to go down there. But there's a lot down there. I mean, it'll eventually get down there. We know that. So what I'm looking at on this big... What I noticed, again, another thing I noticed, nothing ICT has said that I've seen. The opening bar fair value gaps. I don't hold those with a huge ton of weight, okay? Because the opening usually we're going to have momentum, right? The opening, it's going to usually run a lot of times. And a lot of times the opening bar, which is the 930 bar, whether you're looking at the 1 minute, 5 minute, or 15 minute, that opening bar, I've seen it trade, and I ran many months of testing this, where when we get a gap on that opening bar, for example, let's say we get this fair value gap right here. I watch price if it comes back into it, but I don't look at it as it's going to reject here and continue. Like, I look at it as it can be easily traded back through it. So, because, I mean, for the last few months when I've tested this theory of mine, it's a 50-50 that it gets traded back through. And especially if we have a reason for it to go higher. Like, we have clean smoothness up here, and if price does come back up, I'm not holding a lot of weight on this fair value gap. However, it did invert this fair value gap right here in this area, right in the middle of this new one. So I will, and that's where our first presented fair value gap is on the 1 minute. Again, a lot of stuff lining up right here. So if it pulls up here, then it could reject there and continue down. I would be watching. Now, another thing I'll say, if price continues to reach down into this area and I see a market structure shift in a long, because I go for low-hanging fruit and I don't look to take huge trades, relatively speaking, I could look for a long on the 1 minute chart in this area and take it right up to here. Because that'd be a pretty good trade for me. 50 points or so. That's all I mean, that's a great day for me. So, and you can see that wick, we traded right down through it. It had no relevance at all. So, I'm not worried about that. Now it's trading right down in this 15 minute. And also, this is why the higher time frames, I don't get too caught up in it digging into them, because it can and it will. Because if I go to this 1 hour chart where that is, this bar closes in 20 seconds, right? And it has not crossed below the midpoint of this and is still inside it. So if it closes here, then it could still wick down and then come back up and respect it and head up. That's because it's such a high time frame. So the 15 minute is where I get my main bias from. Closed right here. And let's see if we're going to reach at this point back up into this area or not. Or if it'll continue down. If price just keeps running down, that's whenever I usually don't get a trade. If it just keeps running in one area. So you know what? One thing I forgot to mark today was I normally mark the previous 3 days, highs and lows. Okay, so here's one. Here's a wick that I would like to watch on the daily chart. And we might not get that low during my trading session, but this wick, how it reached down, how I'm talking about the wicks, I would want to watch the midpoint of this wick on the daily chart. The low is way down here below last week's low, and the high is right up here above the opening range gap. So I'm not going to waste time and mark it out right now. So now here again, I want to see, we have a little bit of a gap right here. My first sign of a market structure shift on the 1 minute is when we start inverting fair value gaps. This is tiny, so I'm not going to hold that much weight against it. But I want to see it trade and close through here. We had this little bit of a volume imbalance right there that we traded right up through. And the only time I really trade continuations is if I have a really strong target and nothing in the way. So otherwise, I look for reversals, market structure shifts and reversals. So as the price opened and just headed down, like I'm not looking for a short. Unless if we had really strong target and nothing in the way. But in this case, we have this area in the way. So I have to wait and see what happens in this area. Other than that, I mean, strong as far as strong targets. This is this fib right here. This is that wick I was talking about. Here's the midpoint of that wick, which overlaps with this little 15-minute gap. And then, I mean, we do have some strong sell side liquidity, but I mean that's like way down here on the from the daily chart. And that'll be, if we get down to this area, I don't think it'd be during my trading session, so I'm not really too worried about that. So basically what I'm looking at is 10 a.m. My only shot at a trade would be a long with a market structure shift. If we keep running down, I don't, in my opinion, have a strong enough target for me. I have to have a target. Like I can't just say, oh, I think it's going to keep running down and take, you know, a fair value gap entry and just hope it keeps going. Like I need to know where price is going. So here I want to see this fair value gap happen. And I want to see it immediately get inverted. Right here. I want to see price come right back up and close through it. To let me know we're going to shift to the long side. So I'm going to mark it as an inversion to speak this sucker into existence. I want to see it close up through it right immediately. Well, I say immediately, like I don't want it to have like 5, 6, 7, 8 bars below it. So, and also today is another day that I'm not expecting a ton to happen. There's no news. Again, no news. I hate trading no news days. Still reaching down. I mean, we have some oil inventories at 10:30, but that really doesn't impact NQ. Hardly ever. Yeah, see, it's still reaching. It's completely rebalancing this 1 hour gap. So it used this as a nice push off right here. It didn't invert at all. So trying to speak it into existence did not work. It's heading right back down to the middle of that daily fair value gap that I had before. So I mean, if you had a short bias and you were, really, and you have a target, you could have gotten short right here in this gap. Just have your stop above this swing high right here. This little gap, I wouldn't have shorted this little gap, but I mean, there's areas that you could have gotten short. Right here, this one, I wouldn't have shorted because, like I said, we just bounced right off that 1 hour. So heading right to the middle of that daily fair value gap that hasn't closed. ICT has always said, I've heard him say many times, the best longs come from the middle consequent encroachment of a daily gap. We have hit that one time recently. So let's go to the daily chart here. It's the daily chart. And this is that gap that I'm talking about. Here, it's a little messy right now. It is right here. So basically I combined these. We have from here to here. Well, and we have that volume imbalance. So technically you should go all the way up to there. But if you just measure the fair value gap, right here's the midpoint of it, and we're hitting that again on the daily chart. Let's go to the 15-minute. Right at it. 1 minute. So, but tomorrow and Friday is what I'm really looking at better trading days for myself because we have those news drivers. Right now, we opened here at 9:30 and immediately just dropped, and we're just dropping. And typically, I'm not going to take a trade in that. Like I said, unless I have, and I don't have a really strong target to the short side right now. I mean, I do have reasons why it could keep going short, but I don't have a strong enough target for me to take a trade to. Even if I go to the 1 hour chart here, the 4 hour chart. Here's another wick I'd watch on the 4 hour chart. This would be, I would look at midpoint here. We may be gapping down on this 4 hour chart and inverting. Actually, we did invert that 4 hour gap. Right there. So let's see something real quick. Midpoint of that inversion is right here. Right under that 15-minute opening 15-minute gap. So as we continue to create these fair value gaps here, I'm waiting for my first signal to invert one of them. We have this big one here. Until we start inverting these fair value gaps, I have no reason to go long. Here's that midpoint of that daily wick right here. And then we're at the consequent encroachment of the daily fair value gap. Yeah. Benton, if you look at that 1 minute wick I had right there, see how price came back below it? Look at where the body's closed. I mean, you can't make this up. The body's closed right at the midpoint right here. Reached up, closed at the midpoint, and pushed off. It's not something I would trade or anything. It's just something that I, to notice. And here we go, reaching, just continuing to reach down. see something here. Let's look at these new week opening gaps. Sure is making it down to them. Yeah, Sharif, I'll look at those. So like, so basically my job that I think is if we're drawing down, like I'll mark out here. Let me go back to my other chart. I'll mark out the closest, most obvious areas that we can reach to. And well, let me go to the 15-minute chart. I do this on the 15-minute chart. So that's why I had this one, because price is up here. So I had this one, most obvious, and then I had these. I didn't think it would just keep pushing through, because these are some high impact areas, some good areas to look at. And then basically the way I look at it is, if it does push through, well, where's it going? I'm always looking, where's it going next? So from here, if I don't see it on the 15-minute chart right here, that's when I have to go up a time frame. So I'm still looking. We have this right here where I mentioned that wick on the daily chart. We have this little gap on the 15-minute right there. So as it's reaching down, my next area that I'm looking at is right here. Where could it draw to? Because why am I going to just go long? Here's the thing. I say all the time that price doesn't just stop in the middle of nowhere. And I kind of took this from Apex. And then I noticed that with ICT, he says how price is only drawn to liquidity and imbalances, right? So it's not going to just stop in the middle of nowhere. If it's going and it passes areas like this and then it continues, okay, well, where's the next area? So you can either take a trade to that next area or wait till it reaches that next area and then, see if you go the other way. Because a lot of my trades are reversals, right? So we still have that strong buy side liquidity up here, but we've had we're about 300 points away from that. So do I believe we're just going to reach down somewhere and run all the way back up there? Probably not, or at least definitely not during my trading session. And we came right off the middle of that daily fair value gap. So what I look for is to draw somewhere, and then if it draws somewhere and reverses, well, where could it go then? Well, it could go to, we have this inversion here. Now we have this inversion with this area up here still that it could reach back up to and then continue down. So, but it's still just going down, down, down. So what I look for is, where are we drawing to next? And I say all that because if it passes the areas that I can see, then yeah, I'll look at stuff from yesterday. Cause like back here, this is yesterday. Now I have no choice but to look at yesterday. So until we reach down, I'm looking at areas, the closest relevant areas, I guess you could say. And then if I have nothing else here on the 15-minute chart, that's whenever I start going up to higher time frames and looking to see what's going on. Because like I said, my trades are in basically a 1 hour period in the morning, that a lot of times the higher time frames, the 1 hour, 4 hour, and daily, they're not going to help me too much as far as direction. And I know that kind of goes against what a lot of people say, is that you need a daily bias. But I do look at those areas for my levels. And I look for possible directions. But I look more so at the 15-minute time frame to know where price is going in the more immediate. And then I can decide, do I want to take a trade to a target, or wait till it hits somewhere and then back another direction. So it's a little hard to explain, but as I am continuing doing the streams and actually taking trades that I like, then it'll be a little more obvious. But see, like this 1 hour candle, we still have 44 minutes until it closes. So, it inverting here and reversing and not reversing back up in this area, I mean, I'll be done. Like I'm not even going to be in front of a chart by the time this bar closes. So, but since this was here and we were reaching down, I had to mark it to see what it does in this fair value gap, and it just traded. I mean, it's just going straight through it at the moment. So that's kind of how I look at the higher time frames. And then we have 13 minutes for this fair value gap to either form or not form. But at the moment, like, see here, there's nothing here, right? Price is right here. What's there? There's really nothing to stop it from just going a little further down. We do have this bit of an inversion right here, but it's already, traded through it. It's not holding. So I'm not worried about that one. And then aside from that, what do we have? I mean, we just have this low on the 15-minute chart. So that's why I got to look in other areas. Now we hit the midpoint of that daily wick right here. So now it drew there. And basically I'm just waiting for price to draw somewhere and then give me that sign that it's going to reverse. And if it just keeps going down, 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 I just won't get a trade. So for those of you that, I mean, look, I think there's like 24 people on stream right now. So there's still not a lot of new people, or I don't know if anybody's new actually. But for those of you that have not been with me streaming ever, basically I don't click a lot of buttons. But what I do is I kind of just speak out loud what I'm seeing, and as far as reading the market wise, and then trying to show patience and discipline. Yeah, I'm looking at this small little gap right there to see. I mean, I just look for any sign of a reversal is what I normally look for. But I don't hold a lot of weight to it because right now this is our swing. Like even this little swing right here, swing high in this gap, it's not like it's just a 1 bar pullback. So it's not much. So even if it inverts this one, like I need at this point, because of how far price has drawn to, like, let me get out of here. Our open was here. And I mean, we're 755. I mean, we're 250 points down. So at this point, for me to take a long, I mean, I need way like obvious displacement up. Like I can't just have a little gap like this inverted and it just kind of come up and leave a fair value gap going long. Like I need clear displacement for me to consider it long. So, very high chance I don't take a trade today. All right, so we've traded below the midpoint of that, so I'm going to get rid of that little fib. If I look here, and I mean, you can see on the daily chart, it's doing what it should be doing. Reached down, stopped here, created, and then the next day here, created this daily fair value gap, right? Came up, reached down below last week's low, came back up right to the midpoint of the daily fair value gap, and is dropping. So here we have our open, high, and then we're going to have a low and close. I mean, it's doing what it should be doing. It's just, unfortunately, the way it's doing it, it's not presenting me a trade for the way I like my trades. So, yeah, this sucker just keeps going. Benton, you say you noticed most of the time if it does not reverse in that 950 to 1010 window, chances are it's going to keep going till the next window. Yeah. Yeah, I mean it's definitely past the 1010 that macro 950 to 1010 macro, and we just dropped. So yeah, very high chance we might not see anything until closer to the 11 o'clock time frame, which I won't be on by then, but you know, we'll see. If I were to look for a short, so like let's say I did want to take a short, I mean I would target into last week's low, this low, or this volume imbalance from the daily chart. It's nice volume imbalance here, and then continue down, take this low. We have yesterday's low right below last week's low, so it may come back down into this area. So if I really had the confidence in going short, that's what I would target. But that's not part of like my entry model. Trying to see if there's anything else that could stop price at the moment. We're at that 15-minute, that little 15-minute fair value gap right here. And remember, the important thing is where the bodies close, right? So the wicks can reach. Where does the bodies close? That's literally the only thing I see at the moment that can hold price up. 1 hour chart. This is that 4 hour wick I said I'd watch. Let's measure that out real quick. I'm just going to leave the fib on there for now to see that midpoint. But, yeah, this is where those new week opening gaps are. So that would be a reason for it to hold as well. All these new week opening gaps. I mean, cluster of them. So yeah, I mean, it might be done reaching down. We'll see. Like I said, if I don't get anything in the next, call it 15 minutes or so, then I call it a day. So sometimes, like, we can, like, I don't know about y'all, but I'll zoom in sometimes and watch price. And doing that, if you do that, I would caution that you can get tricked into fake displacement, because now my bars, look at my bar, how my bars are. So if I see a bar kind of like come up to this area, like shoot up, then it looks like, oh, it's displacing. But if I zoom back out, then you'd be like, oh, that's just a little, like, it's really not that big compared to everything else. Because I used to do that when I first started. Like, I would see how price is like this, and I'd say, oh man, let me zoom in a little bit so I can see better. And then all of a sudden I see a decent sized bar, and I take the trade, it loses or whatever, and then I zoom back out, and I'm like, you know, that really wasn't displacement now that I'm looking at it. So Let's see if we do invert this little one. Again, this is not going to tell me, hey, let's go ahead and go long it. Like, I need price to really show its hand, the market to really show its hand that it does not want to continue down anymore. Definitely appreciate you all joining me for the stream. If y'all don't mind, hit the like button. Trying to get the stream going again. I used to love in the Apex days when I had, 80, 100 people here, and we're just talking and trying to all make some money and trying to be successful. So we're all trying to do the same thing. See how it reached up? We inverted this one, but like I said, this is not convincing for me yet. I do want to see price respect this inversion, though. That would be a signal. Thanks. That, I love hearing that. Yeah, I definitely plan on keeping this stream going. And, that's also why I see a lot of YouTubers that they show, how much they're getting paid out. They show their, total everything. Their account balances, all that, which that's cool. Don't get me wrong. And, full transparency and all that, great. The reason I don't do that, I did put my P&L for the day, though, so everybody could see, the trade that I took, that I'm actually taking them. But the reason I don't do that is because if you've seen any of my other videos or hear me talk or anything, I preach so much not to focus on the money. The money is a byproduct of trading well. And it happens. You trade good, have great discipline, have great money management, you're going to make money. So I don't have to show that. And I don't care to prove to people I'm making money or not. I don't, it's whatever. I want to show how I'm working on reading the market. I go back and watch how I read the market. How did I mess up? I try to get better. I come from basketball, basketball my whole life. Even to this day, it's like, hey, you play, you don't lose, you learn a lesson, you go back, you review, you watch film. How do I get better? How do I get better? Every single day. So, yeah, so far it's respecting this inversion. I like that. That's a good sign. Good sign. Little bit of an indecisive candle here. Right here, where we wicked up, wicked down. So, I would watch this right here. So this is also when you read the wicks, each wick, I struggled with this for a long time. And even those of you that were around when I was with Apex, Lori used to always talk about the wicks. And I've always struggled, I don't know why, reading the wicks. But for the past I'd say 3 or 4 months, I really focused on them and watching the psychology of the wicks. And the wicks tell you a lot, whether it's manipulation, whether it's a lot of the wicking is manipulation. I'll just put it that way. So, and it tells you what's happening. I'm looking bar by bar and all the wicks, what's happening. When I started doing that too, that helped me a lot, stay out of bad trades. Because those are what's going to trick you. So here was a little bit of an indecisive bar. You can see the body closed here, but it wicked way up and it wicked way down. So it's okay, was it just reaching here? What was it reaching for? And was it reaching to take out some of these stops that if people, had some stops here, or what was it doing? And check this out. This is perfection. If I measure this wick, see how it closed, wicked up, closed here. And then this wick reached up just past the midpoint of it and dropped. So reading the wicks have helped me so much. Little stuff like that. Hey, that's good to hear, Ben. It encourages you not to overtrade. That's awesome. That. See, that to me means so much more than taking trades, because I know that is a lot of what success is in trading. Yeah, we need to get Chris on some YouTube here. Come on, Chris. You can do it. I'm the water. I see, Chris. Let me shine a little bit. Let me stream, and then I can shout you out. How about that? There you go. Get you a nice setup. See, look at this. Look how now this... Okay, wait. Let me pause. This looks like... Oh, it's displacing. But look at this. Let me zoom out. It is, kind of. But it's not way obvious yet. Because see how I zoomed in? Now, it's potentially doing it, but we can't jump the gun. So, this inversion, I'm going to get rid of this inversion because it didn't really do much. It didn't hold. I want to see if I see... Okay, so here's the thing. If we get this fair value gap right here, this is not one I'm taking a long off of yet. We have a little fair value gap right here that I rejected on. I don't have it marked, but it's there. Right there. What I want to see is this gap right here form, and I don't want to see price touch it. I want this to be a breakaway gap, and then I'll take the next one. I want this to be a breakaway. Do not come back down to here. Yeah, let me check out the 15 minutes. So we have this 15-minute gap here. New one. Big one. So could it reach back up to the middle? So that's something we gotta watch. Or is it going to just reject? Let me go back down. And see also, we're coming up. I don't want to see price come back into this one at all. I want to see it be a breakaway. And then here's the area where I want to see get inverted. Right in here. We do have a shift in structure currently. We took this swing. We pulled back. We're displacing up, right, through this swing. Right there. Displaced up through this swing, but I don't want to see it come back here. Don't want to see it. Here, let me get rid of this fib, clean that up a little bit. And then, yeah, since we have this new 15-minute gap, we got to watch the consequent encroachment of it, the middle of it. And then we have this one here, this 1 minute fair value gap, because price could come right back here and then just continue dropping. It could happen. So that's why I don't want this to be traded back into right here, this 1 minute gap. I want to see it be a breakaway. And then that way, if we get a new gap and an inversion here, then I want to see that hold. And then we got to think this 1 hour. Hold on. Did it invert that 1 hour yet? So this 1 hour has not been inverted. See, wicking down, we still have 25 minutes and it could trade back up. So it's not inverted. I can't use that as inverted. So I'm just going to get rid of it now to clean it up some. We have the 15-minute inversion right here. Okay. So if price continues up, we got to watch that area too. But for me, like if I do end up getting a long somewhere, I mean, this could just be there could be quite some resistance if it does continue up. So it's rejecting right here off this 1 minute. And if it does touch this 1 minute gap, of course I want it to hold if I am going to go long. But I prefer it not to come down to this 1 minute gap. However, you could long it if you're very confident it's going to continue up. I just would prefer to see it not touched. Yeah. Market maker buy model could be in play right now. Because what do we have with a market maker buy model? It should look like this. I always have trouble with this stupid drawing thing. There we go. So it should look like that. And we do have a clear, I mean, it's a clear shift. We have a market structure shift. So we very well, I mean, if you want to risk it, you could go long right here. That would be a long. Just have to be aware that it could create, have some turbulence going up. And if you want a low risk, you just set your stop right under this swing right here for a low risk. So we're looking at 32 to 10. So about a 22-point stop. Not bad. Because if it takes this swing low here, then it'll likely continue down. That would be my read. I prefer it not to come down to it. I know I keep saying that, but because this big gap right here and this 15-minute gap, I mean, it's likely not to just straight through. I expect it could go through it, just not like no resistance straight through, which it's showing that here, right? It rejected, pulled back a little bit. And that could be all it does. If we get a fair value gap and an inversion here, then I will likely go long. We're getting close to my cutoff time, though. But we are showing a sign of a long, so that's whenever I'm okay with waiting. And it's coming off the middle, the consequent encroachment of the daily fair value gap. So the more things I can line up together, the more confident I am with trades. And this could potentially be an order block. Potentially. I say potentially because there's no displacement up. It is taking these highs, though. So sometimes when I mark order blocks, I don't mean them that they are order blocks. I mean them as I'm watching to see if it's an order block. So I know I've posted screenshots and stuff before, and it'll look something like this. And it might not necessarily be an actual order block, but I have it marked as a potential. So then I'll wait to see if what price does if it goes back into it. And then that'll tell me if it's an order block or not. I honestly don't think this yellow here, this 15-minute inversion, is going to do much. I think we continue going through, especially this fresh 15-minute gap, this color here. It's not like it's trading up in it pretty easily, and it's already crossed. Hasn't closed because it's still 5 minutes, but hasn't. It's crossed the midpoint pretty easily. Now we might be getting our fair value gap right here. Maybe. Still got a minute. We got to see this fair value gap. Let me move it. Move it here. Hit the midpoint of this one. If I have two or more fair value gaps in a row, then I usually combine it. But since it traded up through already, I just kind of wanted to see where's the midpoint if I only mark this one. And it's right there. So we're not getting that gap. But let's see what it does if it does trade back into this potential order block here. At this point, I don't want to see it take this swing low right here if it's going to continue up. I'm going to get rid of this to clean it up. And what you could do, if price does start pulling back, is you can measure out this leg. And this gap is in the discount of this leg up. So if it does pull back into this area, you got to just see where the high is if it starts pulling back. And that could be a potential reason for it to go back down, but I don't think it does. And you see on the 15-minute chart how it came back down and did not close. It wicked through this gap and did not close, and that's where that wick was on the daily chart, the middle of it. Rejecting here. See what this wick, what price does with that wick right there. Because that wick reached down and closed up. So let's see what it does here. Yeah, it could be. It could be reaching up to continue down. So, I mean, that's what, I'm constantly trying to read and determine. But with the structure shift, the way it shifted here, right here, this displacement through this swing, I mean, this is a market structure shift on the 1 minute. But the 15-minute currently, you see where the body is struggling at the midpoint of this 15-minute chart. So, yeah, it could just be pulling up in this area and then continuing down. So that's why I got to be a little careful with just relying on the 1 minute chart. Is that, I mean, yeah, like I said, it's clear market structure shift. But if the higher time frame is indicating something different, then you might, you just got to be a little careful. So and you gotta remember too, like when you do come back to areas like this gap, that's why a lot of times you can know whether it's going to be smooth or kind of a high resistance. Well, I always like to say turbulence, because even though, yeah, I think currently based on the 1 minute, it looks like we'll continue up, but we have this gap, this little gap. We have reasons for it to hesitate and get stuck at. And then if you have that many reasons, oftentimes a higher time frame, like a 15-minute, will have some gaps in different things. And I haven't even gone to the 5 minute yet. See, if you look at the 5 minute, we have this big fair value gap on the 5 minute. So, I like to see, I don't look at the 5 minute as much, but I do like to see 5 minute gaps get inverted. That's a good sign for me. So like if this one turns into inversion and closes up here, I would love to see that. That would be like confirmation, like confluence with what I'm seeing on the 1 minute chart. And basically that would be up here. And that would invert this 1 minute gap. Consolidation between 640, 660 area, small stop run, and continue higher. 640. Yeah, we could. APW. It's kind of why I marked this order block here. I think he meant 540 and 560. But yeah, that's why I marked this area here to see what price does if it does come back here. But we're reaching up. I'm not concerned with this 15-minute gap anymore. It looks like we're completely almost rebalancing it. We already got this displacement and shift. So I don't really necessarily need more displacement to consider this a market structure shift. I just kind of need an entry. And I am above my time right now. So if we get this fair value gap right here, and we invert this 5-minute, this is going to be my entry. And my stop would be, let's see, 593 would be under this swing right here, because it should not come back and take the swing. Yeah, and since I look for low-hanging fruit, like I don't need... I can be wrong on the day or even on the higher time frames and still get a successful trade. So we inverted this one. So this is looking nice. We may hit this and come back. I don't know. We rebalanced the 15-minute completely. And if I get an entry, I'll take an entry here. And my target, let's see, this 590, the low-hanging fruit would be this fair value gap. But then you have this high. And then this area up here is where I really believe we're going to go to up here around 670. I mean, that'd be a really big trade, but we'll see. 1050 coming up. Check something here. And normally I would have been off already. But like I said, it's showing its hand. It's showing me that it's wanting to go up. $10.40. Yeah. Yeah, you're right. This area, yeah, this is a valid order block here and can be traded. I personally trade the fair value gaps, so I would enter here. But I like to see when we have multiple PD arrays lining up, right? Because that's just stronger entry. And if they fail, then it's like, I want out. That's simple as that. If it fails, I want out. You could enter at this inversion. You can enter at this this fair value gap. You can enter at this order block. This order block, the wick is pretty much lining up right with the middle of that fair value gap. And that's the other thing. When you have fair value gaps and order blocks that line up together, I mean, those are strong. So it taps this fair value gap. So now let's see if it comes back down a little bit to give me an entry. And this would be my target up here. So I can technically take any entry until I get to that target. Like there could be multiple entries because this is where I have a high, like I have a strong, to me that would be a strong target up there. I just need to get an entry at this point. And clear this out for easier viewing. And I actually like that it hit this fair value gap before my entry, because if it would have came down here first, then go up here, then you see how it struggles a little bit. Because typically, just when it reaches stuff like that, it typically doesn't just go straight through. Like, it'll bounce a little bit and then go. The top of the inversion to the top of here is about a 10-point difference. We inverted that 5-minute as well, which is the top of this inversion. If I go to the 5-minute chart, there's that inversion. Let's see if it happens. 10:52 now. If I don't get anything here and it reaches up to here, then that's my day. Maybe. Nice. I don't use limit orders because I don't want to get skipped, especially copying 20 accounts. If it taps it and then the trade copier not be able to get everything filled. Especially doing micros, you know, so I'm trading multiple micros on multiple accounts. So like I could be trading at any given time like 150 micros it's trying to fill me in across all 20 accounts. And if it barely taps my limit entry, it might not. Like, that's when I see the trade copier get all jacked. I've never used the hotkey. So, like, I usually just click buy or sell. But I see how it has a hotkey, Shift and B to buy. I've never tried that. It needs to hurry up, though. It's already about to be 11 o'clock here. 10:55. It'd be kind of the same thing, though, here. If it inverts this 1 minute and we get displacement with a fair value gap, then I can enter there and have my stop under this, because then at that point, price should not come back below here and just continue up to that point. And if that happens, I mean, that's still a 40-point trade for me. Yeah. APW. That's kind of what I'm thinking. Like if it doesn't reach back down, because in this whole leg, if you look at the 15-minute chart, the next area, the next fair value gap is here. And then if we're looking at the 1-minute chart, like it's now inverted, you know, quite a few of these. So the next point, like we have this little wick high, we have this little fair value gap, then we have this wick high and this high here. So like that would be my target, would be right here. And from my read, it should not, there's areas that should not go back below before it reaches here. Like that's why I wanted this to be a breakaway gap here, not reach back. And then like here, it didn't reach back down below there. Now you have this fair value gap, which until we get displacement, more displacement up, it could still reach back down here. But if we get displacement up, it should not reach back down there before reaching up here. So at this moment, I'm still expecting it to come back down here until it displaces up and inverts this. Yeah. It's close. It's doing some like accumulation here, a little bit of gathering up some, you know, I mean, I still wouldn't be surprised if it reaches down. And actually what I would like to see is a wick down. Like give me a nice wick right here, down, and then continue up. Yeah. At the moment, that 1053 bar was the stop run, because that's where it reached down. And that's why I would have liked to see one more reach down to here. But if it doesn't happen, then yeah, that's it right there. And then if we get this displacement and inversion here, then I'd be looking to long this area. And basically my stop would be under here. And then, but if we get too close up here, then yeah, I wouldn't. I would just call it a day. We did invert this. So technically you could get long in here. I'm not, because I still take just fair value gaps. Be 623 stop here. I mean, that's a small stop. That's nice. But we have not displaced yet. Like there's no imbalance here, no fair value gap. So I still would not be surprised, even though currently, yeah, this looks like our little stop run here. I still would not, and we do have the inversion, I would not be surprised if we pulled back down into this area. I mean, we might, we're not saying we will, but I just wouldn't be surprised if it happens. And this inversion is holding at the moment. It's 11 now. Like, if we had a gap here, I would have taken this long. That inversion held perfectly. So that would have been an entry right there. Stop right here. That could have been taken. Small stop. And then hold to right up here. That would have been an easy 2-to-1. 23. Oh, no, that's 50 points. I don't take inversions right now, just only inversions. I only take fair value gaps as my entry. That's just personal preference. So now at this point, like, if price does pull back to this area, like, I don't think it will. This inversion is holding. I think it continues up, and it should not take this swing here. But it did not displace, right? So, like, there's no gap. So it still could reach down here. But if that happens, I won't immediately long. I'll wait to see, because if it does reach down here, it's taking this swing here, right? And there's no displacement up, so I would wait to see how price reacts here. I wouldn't just immediately. Normally, like, before all this happened, if price would have came down here, I would have immediately went long. But now, because the way it's doing it, if it does come down here, I would not immediately do it. I would wait to see price reaction first and then go long. But like I said, I mean, look at where all the bodies are closing. This is very likely just to continue up and not come back below. It's very tempting to go long, but I got to stick to my entry model of fair value gaps. And that sometimes is the hard part. Is I'll get reads and I'm like, I know where price is going and I know what it should be doing, but I don't have my specific entry that I like to look for. And see right here, it's coming right back down. One last kiss of the fair value gap, and we'll see if it takes off now. Or the inversion, I mean. But see, here's where I mentioned too, there's this little bitty fair value gap here with this high, and this is where it could have a little small bit of turbulence. Chris, Shadow can't get, he still can't type. I don't know what's going on in the chat. I don't know. All right, yeah, I'm about to hop off and call it a day. It's accumulating here. I'm just kind of waiting to see. It's just taking much longer than what I normally like to be here, like way longer. But that's also because it was no news day, so we may be like here. We got this 15-minute See, we inverted this one and got this 15-minute fair value gap right here, right? On the 15-minute chart. And then potentially another one in 9 minutes. So we'll see if it pulls back, but accumulating. This is holding. But that's also the reason that was the reason why I didn't take this inversion, because we had no displacement, which displacement typically will come with a fair value gap. Yeah, for sure. That's my first goal. Trade well, stick to my rules. So also, here's why I'm not going to immediately hop in this if it does come back down here, because I don't want to see it create a fair value gap as it comes down against me. So it reaching down here, immediately rebalancing in any potential is great. So that way it can continue to come down without a fair value gap, a SIBI against me. And because we traded back through this, I'm going to get rid of it for better viewing purposes. Even though it didn't quite reach back there exactly, that I'm fine with it because my target's still stronger than the pull down. And then we do have this 15-minute gap that I just showed, the new one, and the inversion overlapping it. So I will wait to see how far it reaches down. It could reach down to here. It could reach down to here. It could reach down a little bit further here. Either way, if I get in long on this area, I will have my stop under this little swing right there. But that's what I'm looking for as it pulls back. I don't want a SIBI against me. And it's only, what's today? Wednesday. So for us to have not get anything until this late, I don't really love that. So I hit this inversion. And to be honest, what I would do if I do get a long here, I'll probably just target these highs as my low-hanging fruit. That'd be about a 40, 50 point trade, and I'd be good for that. Hit that inversion nicely. And see, and that's the risk I take by only taking my fair value gaps, is it hit this inversion, and that may be all it needed, and it may run now. If price takes these highs now, then I'm done. I'm not taking anything. Oh, yeah, look at this. I didn't even notice that. We had a 5-minute fair value gap right here. So that makes sense why I didn't reach down further. Let's see if it does. I want to see this wick right here. What happens with this wick? Yeah, it might not reach down any further. Let's see. I'll give it a few minutes here. I do like that we have this 5-minute fair value gap here as well. So if we do wick down and reach down here, I probably will just go long. We don't technically have a market structure shift quite yet on the 5-minute, but there's no swing that it took. But let's see. Yeah, I'm just gonna go long here. And I'm gonna be at this swing. It could reach down some. This is I'm taking a risk here, but I don't think we continue just reaching down too far. We're hitting that 15-minute gap, and I'm actually gonna target these highs right here, like I mentioned. So we'll see. I don't like how hard it's going here, so I want this to immediately come up and rebalance this here. I don't want this to leave a gap right there. I want it to come up and rebalance that. But my conviction is still that it's going to go up here. So we'll see. We'll see if I'm right or not. I don't like immediately going into drawdown like that, but it's around this order block as well. If it does take out this area, then I just want out. I don't want to see, it's got 20 seconds. It needs to come back up and rebalance this, or else that's not a good sign at all. Hit that 15-minute gap right here. I don't think it digs down further, but hey, we'll see. Looks like it is gonna get this imbalance down here. I need to see this get inverted like fairly quickly. See, and that's why I would have waited to hop in this long here to see how price reacts first. But I just had too many things overlapping in this area that I didn't want it to run away without me. So, and I'm within my money management on this trade. So I'm good. I'm good with it. I'm in at 596, 74, 84, 94. I'm in within 32 points. That's like, yeah. Anything more, I typically don't like, but I prefer to be around 25 point stops, 25 to 30. So that's 32. I'm good with it. But it's this fair value gap right here is holding. I need it to invert it fairly quickly. If it doesn't, then yeah, I'm probably gonna get stopped out if it doesn't invert it fairly quickly. Because it could reach down to the midpoint of this 15-minute gap. This inversion is not holding anymore. So we'll see what happens. Until this fair value gap right here gets inverted, it's going to be a struggle. Because that's what I would normally, like, that's what I would want to wait to see. And why I wouldn't get in, and I probably jumped the gun. I shouldn't have got in yet. Why I wait to see how price reacts. But, and time. I don't like the time. But it's all right. We'll see. It's gonna suck my first two days if I get a loss 2 days in a row on streaming. Until this gets inverted, like, it's not the best because I didn't like that. I do like the bodies are hanging out here. But if we displace, it's not going to be good. Just needs to go ahead and invert this. Let's try and invert the 5-minute gap also. Right here, creating a new one and inverting this one. So we shall see. Crucial point here. Can it invert that? Yeah, that 5-minute gap got inverted. So that's one level of defense that's gone. And this fair value gap is holding. Right here. I'm going to get rid of that 5-minute one. This fair value gap's holding. So could have gotten out. I could tighten my stop to be safe. There's a lot of things I could do right now. But because if this displaces through these lows here, then that's game over. So we'll see if this 15-minute gap right here is going to hold or if it's going to dig in. I personally believe we're going to go short now, because this is holding and we inverted that 5-minute gap. So it's definitely not a good sign. My last layer of defense now is this 15-minute gap right here. And we are inside of an inversion of the 15-minute as well. But, you know, we see things happen on the lower time frames first, and this happening right now, it's not showing me that it wants to continue up. So and I hate the time right now. So like I technically should not have. That's why I like to stop at a certain time each day. But we'll see. We need it to take this high and invert this fair value gap right here to have any hope. Any hope? FOMO'd? Wouldn't consider this FOMO. I'd consider it what I normally do. The only thing I don't like mainly is the time right now. Crucial area here. This is where if you're not convinced, you get out. I could also tighten below this swing here. We might get a little gap right here. I need to see how price reacts right here at this midpoint of this fair value gap. It's rejecting perfectly. So 20 seconds. If it rejects perfectly right there, then we're not gonna go anywhere. So I'm actually gonna tighten up right underneath this, because if it rejects here and takes this low, I want out. And I basically reduced my stop by quite a bit. And it very well could reject, come down further, and then go up, but I don't want to be a part of that. See how it's still rejecting right there? Like, that's where you get out if you're not convinced. We have a little gap right here, but yeah, I'm not. It's rejecting too clean right there. So yeah, if it takes this swing, then I'm out, because it rejected again right there. And I don't care if it wicks me out and goes up, because at this point, if it takes this swing, I want out with the way it's rejecting this fair value gap. And like, I could actually, really, I could close out and save myself. But let's see, this little bitty fair value gap right here on this one is holding for the moment, but still not convinced. At this point, it just needs to go. If it doesn't go on this bar, then that's it. Yeah. It's not showing any willingness to go higher. It's rejecting too much at the consequent encroachment of that fair value gap. If this bar does not displace up, then yeah, I'm gonna probably hop out, unless if it takes me out first. It's likely going to take me out, but if it could pop up here, I'll probably get out at break even if I can. I don't see this displacing up. Like, we just need that displacement. If we don't get that displacement, then there's going to be nothing. All right, closed out. Small loss there.
Order filled.
Total of $495 after commissions across all my accounts, which I'm fine with. It's not showing me. It may go, but it's not showing me any willingness at this point. So I might as well save the trade. I don't like the time, and yeah, that's it. That's fine. So that's a wrap. Small loss. I can handle that. So that's basically about $20 per account. Like, it should have displaced already. And it might, but it should have. And since I didn't get it, and this is showing a hold, a willingness to not go above, yeah, I'm cool. So get rid of those. Boom, all gone. That's how I know I am done for the day. All right, so hey, it is what it is. They can't get them all, right? I appreciate y'all for being here. I'll be here tomorrow and Friday as well, same time. I will end much earlier those days. And then after this week, we have Thanksgiving week next week. So just keep in I'll keep in touch. I don't know what next week's going to look like, but yeah. So we'll see. And then going forward, probably non-news days, like a Monday with no news, I probably won't be streaming stuff like that. So only those good, nice volatile days. So, all right. Hope y'all have a great rest of the day. If you're going to keep trading, as always, trade well. I'll see y'all later. Thanks for joining.